and welcome to Press TV's Debate. I'm Marzieh Hashimi. Thanks so much for being with us. London and Washington have expressed their support for 2 Israeli airstrikes on Syria. This as the Syrian military continues to make gains against AlQaeda and al-Nusra, part of the so-called Free Syrian Army. How are the dynamics of this war changing as now even Egypt and the Arab League have condemned the Israeli attack, the same attacks that the United States and the United Kingdom is supporting? Stay with us on this debate as we take a look at the new situation in Syria.
The aftermath of Sunday's Israeli air and missile strikes against Syria. This time Tel Aviv targeted an area near the capital Damascus. Israel has all but confirmed it has been behind the attacks, claiming they hit a depot of Iranian-made weapons destined for the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah.
Israel's policy that a certain kind of weapon will not reach the hands of extremists is an important policy, essential, and it must be pursued.
Syrian security forces reject the claim that Israel pounded military sites.
The area is 99% populated by civilians. First, this facility is for chickens and cows, and there are factories for cement, water, metal recycling, and a tea and gas station.
As the Israeli air and missile strikes are in the spotlight, fighting is raging on between Syrian forces and foreign-backed insurgents across the country. Syria has repeatedly charged that the ongoing conflict that's ravaged the country for the past 2 years is part of a foreign conspiracy aimed at regime change. As for the latest Israeli attacks, Syria has strongly condemned them as declaration of war. It says the attack provides direct military support to the militants fighting the government of President Bashar al-Assad. Syrian officials also say the raids come at a time when the government forces are making gains against terrorist groups.
This aggression opens the door to all possibilities. Especially, it leaves no doubt about the magnitude of the hostile collaboration among those who are waging war on Syria through their tools, that is, terrorists, extremists, and Zionists.
Reports coming out of Syria also say officials in Damascus are exploring ways of how to respond to the Israeli attacks.
I believe the government is looking into how it will respond, either by other means or by direct military response.
The Israeli aggression has also drawn condemnation from Iran, Egypt and the Arab League. Iran has called for regional resistance against Israeli aggression. Egypt has described the attacks as aggression, and the Arab League has called on the UN to take action against Tel Aviv. Analysts believe Israel consider Assad's government as a dangerous force whose ouster would deal a blow to the regional resistance against it. They say an insurgent victory in Syria would be the most positive outcome with the best geostrategic benefits for Israel.
We know that Israel is the main problem, and we, this country, this nation, Syria, will resist and remain.
Well, I'd like to welcome my guest to the program out of Damascus, Mr. Ala Ibrahim, Syrian journalist, and in Berkeley, California, investigative journalist Lee Kaplan. Welcome to the program, both of you. I'd like to start off in Damascus with Mr. Ibrahim. Let's look at the timing of these attacks. Why do you think that Israel has attacked Syria, and why now?
Well, I think this falls in the same context with the repeated attacks carried out by rebels against the Syrian aerial defenses in the past year. They have attacked more than 1 battalion, more than 1 aerial defense bases in a systematic effort to undermine the capabilities of Syria to protect its airspace. So I think Israel at this point thinks that with everything happening in the region, with the fact that the Syrian army is gaining grounds and they're gaining the upper hand in the fight against the rebels inside Syria, and with the fact that Israel understands that when Syria emerges victorious out of this crisis, when the government of President Assad emerges victorious from this crisis, it will be much more powerful than before, which poses a serious threat for Israel that based its whole policy in the region on having small, fractioned and fragmented entities that are also always weaker than Israel. So it all falls in the context of the Israeli strategy to weaken its enemies, which includes Syria, of course. And I think at this point they thought the aerial defenses are undermined. They thought the rebels are losing ground. They need some kind of moral support, and they can also achieve a blow to Syria's technical research facilities. So they thought, let's go ahead and do it, especially that they are now receiving quite substantial political support from the Western allies, the United States, France, and the United Kingdom, who have all been wanting to attack Syria but did not want to pay the price of attacking Syria. So all in all, it all worked out for Israel, and they carried out this attack.
Okay, well, Mr. Kaplan, U.S. President Barack Obama and British Foreign Secretary William Hague have both said that Israel has the right to carry out these airstrikes or to protect themselves. Your take, sir, how is it possible that countries like the U.S. and the U.K. can give an okay, basically, for Israel to attack a sovereign nation?
Well, the gentleman in London, of course, left out a lot of details. The Bashar Assad regime, for one thing, has been bringing in Hezbollah fighters from Lebanon, and they just imported 3,000 of the Basij militia from Iran to line themselves up along Israel's border. And the United States, President Obama had said there was a red line about the use of chemical weapons, and the Syrians have used chemical weapons now against the Free Syrian Army. The fact is, the Israelis can see that the Iranians were attempting to import all sorts of dangerous missiles to the Hezbollah forces in Syria, which would not only create a situation for Israel on its northern border with Lebanon, but also on its border with Syria, where they could fire missiles into Tel Aviv. And the use of chemical weapons, the use of creating a missile stockpile, this is Iran using Hezbollah and Syria, as it always has, as a proxy against Israel and also against the West.
So you're saying that Damascus has used the chemical weapons, sir? You're saying that Damascus has used, the government has used the chemical weapons?
It's absolutely been confirmed. And aside from that, even if you wanted to discount that, you would have to say Damascus has been bringing in Hezbollah fighters and the Basij and Iranian troops.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Damascus.
It has never been confirmed that Syria has used chemical weapons in the conflict. We have alleged incidents. One of the alleged incidents is in March 19th, where rebels used chemical weapons against an army checkpoint in Khan al-Athal in northern Syria near Aleppo, and that incident was called, the United Nations was called upon to investigate in this incident, and the United Nations is now preparing itself to investigate in this incident. So there's nothing is confirmed. Let's all bear in mind that the American politicians are experts in lying. We all remember the lie of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and no one wants to repeat this. Actually, no sane person would like to repeat this in Syria.
Go ahead, Berkeley.
Okay, well, let's talk about lying here for a second. First of all, the one thing that's keeping that war going in Syria is the refusal of Assad to leave power. And even the United Nations tried to put together a transitional program to change the government in there, but it would require that Assad leave, and he won't leave. And he's already killed 70,000 of his own people in this war.
It's not their place to say, it's not the United States' place to say Assad will leave. It's not their choice.
His father,
it's the choice of the Syrian people.
What about that, Mr. Kaplan? What about what our guests in Damascus
we
are saying?
who rules us, not someone sitting in behind the Pacific Ocean. This is ridiculous. Morally speaking, this is presumptuous by the Americans to think that they can impose a president on us. We have a president. His term ends in 2014. We have elections. Let's see what happens. You can't impose presidents on us and say, let Assad leave the power. It's not Obama's choice who rules Syria. It's the Syrians who decide who rules Syria.
Mr. Kaplan, what about that?
It's not a question.
Mr. Kaplan, why not leave it up to the Syrian people to decide their fate?
because the Syrian people are living under a dictatorship with Assad, and he would murder them if they did try to vote him out of office. The fact of the matter is he wouldn't go, and he's killed 70,000 Syrians so far in his refusal to go. If he loved his people, and let me finish.
Have carried out substantial massacres. They killed people in masses, and you're trying to turn things around and to say it was the president who killed or the president who did that. This is an ongoing war where the United States of America is involved, pretty much involved. France is involved. The United Kingdom is involved. Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Israel is involved. You can't say that Assad killed 70,000 people. What do you have to say about the people who Israel killed today in their air raid? What mistake did they do? That they worked for the Syrian military? That they were carrying out their day-to-day jobs? They killed them today in an air raid.
Let me let
just
Mr.
because
Kaplan
Israel thought to do it, because it has the support of the United States of America.
Israel killed 300 of the 501st Division of the Syrian Army, which handles chemical weapons disbursement in the Syrian Army. That's who they killed.
The first division of the Syrian army is an armored division. Don't say things
let me finish.
The first division of the Syrian army is an armored division.
The Assad regime, going back to his father.
Even whatever the Syrian army formations are doing, it's not Israel's right to carry out any acts of killing against Syrian soldiers. Let's bear in mind, Israel is known for killing civilians. It's killed over 1,000 in Lebanon, over 1,000 in Gaza, and for what? Just for hegemony, just to prove it has power and leverage over other people. So don't come lecture at us to say who's killing innocents. It's Israel who's killing innocents. Who is a genocidal murderer is Israel, and the people supporting them, like Obama, like the American administration, are giving Syria day in, day out by sending chemical weapons and chemical elements to insurgents, to use them against Syrian soldiers, to use them against civilians, to use them in ethnic cleansing that they are carrying out. Shiite towns have been displaced. Thousands of Shiites have been killed in Syria simply because they don't support the rebels. What do you have to say about that? Two
Mr.
towns
Kaplan,
in northern Syria.
let's give Mr. Kaplan a chance to answer.
I'll be glad to say. I'll be glad to address it if you'd let me talk.
Because Turkey is supplying the rebels with arms to carry on with this siege. Don't come lecture at us at genocide, at human rights, please.
Okay,
please
Mr. Abraham, stay with me, please. Go ahead, Mr. Kaplan.
Okay, well, number one, let me point out something. His tirades there are an example of what goes on in a dictatorship. The other side isn't allowed to speak. Now, let me say this. The Assad regime, and it's going back to his father also, who murdered 30,000 Syrians in Hama who were in opposition to him. And he's killed, as I said, 70,000 in Syria. And one of the things that was fascinating to me is when we started this broadcast, somebody said that Israel was allied with AlQaeda, which is... You're interrupting me again. You're interrupting me again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can't interrupt me.
Just give him a chance to talk. Give him a chance to finish, and I'll give you a chance to respond. Go ahead, Mr. Kaplan.
I will interrupt you.
All right,
you can't accuse us of being genocidal maniacs, but just because you like it, and then you think you can get away with it.
Me because he does that. He will interrupt me because he doesn't want the truth about this. The fact is that the Assad regime has been bringing in forces from Hezbollah.
Because you're misinformed and
you're doing it again.
Okay, we're going to take a break from both of you. I want to turn everyone, both of you, hold off for a second. Let me switch off. Everyone calm down. Let's look at our Facebook comments and then we'll be right back.
These Israeli attacks on Syria have made it very clear what the scenario is against Damascus. Israel is fighting on the same side of AlQaeda, Turkey, Qatar and Saudi Arabia. It is a fight for the people of Syria. It is a fight to destroy Syria in revenge for its firm stance for resistance against the Israeli occupation. I wonder what the Arab League response will be. Will they decide to send arms to Syria to help the Syrian government against Israel? Where are the clerics who issued fatwas for jihad against the Syrian government? Have they issued any fatwa against Israel? Mr. Ban Ki-moon, wake up. Israel has attacked an independent country by missiles. Don't you consider this an act of aggression and a threat to peace and stability in the world? Would you keep silent if a missile from Syria, Lebanon or Gaza hit a military post of the Israeli occupiers?
All right, well, let me start back off with you, Mr. Kaplan. Looking at the situation as far as our comments from our viewers, let's look at the situation that Israel is allowed to cross over a border, go in and attack a sovereign nation. Do you think that it will be condemned internationally, for example, by the United Nations? We've already seen the Arab League coming down hard on it. How likely, though, are we to see the Security Council or the United Nations in general condemning this act?
Do I think they will be condemned by Arab states that are dictatorships?
No,
like
I asked you
like
about
Syria
the United Nations, sir. That's the question.
Well, let me finish what I have to say here. Okay, well, first of all, they're not being condemned by countries which are democracies and promote ending dictatorships like that of Bashar Assad. The United States, the UK, France, they are all on the side of Israel, and they have all said that Israel is acting in self-defense. So the question is, if Assad brings in Hezbollah troops and he brings in special missiles to shoot into Tel Aviv, and if he's bringing in Basiji militia to line up on Israel's border, and they're in a position to attack the Jewish state, and Israel needs, in the interest of self-defense, to take out their chemical weapons and to also protect itself, obviously, the Western countries, the democracies, feel that they're justified.
Well, sir, you've used conditional tense.
You have used conditional tense. I don't care how much.
You've used conditional tense if. You have used conditional tense if about Hezbollah, about the Iranian besiege. However, we know for a fact that Israel has actually bombed the Syrian nation. Under international law that a country or an entity is allowed basically to bomb a country at will?
Well, let's take that as an example. For Syria, for many years, has been the home base turf for Hamas, which has bombed and murdered Israeli citizens in terrorist attacks.
Please do not get off the subject. Please answer my question.
I'm not off the subject. I'm not off the subject. If Syria was providing a home base for Khaled Mashal in Damascus for terrorist attacks inside Israel, what's the difference to you? The Israelis, of course, didn't attack in self-defense Syria because it was a sovereign nation. But now they're in a position where Hezbollah is not only facing them from Lebanon, they're facing them from Syria too, and they're also bringing in weapons and troops from Iran. So, come on, let's be reasonable here.
Okay.
I mean, we can spin it as much as we want, but the fact of the matter is, the real answer to this is Bashar Assad to go.
All right, let me turn back to Mr. Ibrahim in Damascus. Sir, your take on what our guest has just said out of Berkeley, California, that basically this is Israel reacting in response to what has taken place on the ground from Hezbollah, allegedly Hezbollah and Iran.
Obviously, your guest is greatly misinformed and tends to use generalization all the time. He called all the Arab nations dictatorships. What does he have to say about Egypt, Tunisia, Libya, countries that went on uprising for democracy? Egypt, the country that held elections recently and had a democratically elected president, even the United States of America would acknowledge this, condemned this air raid. So it's not only the dictatorships that are supporting the Syrian government.
States. They are
He's
Islamic
a democratically elected
states.
President. It's a democratically elected government.
That's right.
I'll tell you something. Generalization is not true. You can't generalize this and call all the Arab nations dictatorships. This is not very respectful to the Arab nations, because not all Arabs live under dictatorships, and this is not very decent, not very true.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Abraham, please. Let's stay on track. Please stay on the subject. Go ahead, continue with what you were saying.
I would dare you to tell the truth for once in your life. Obviously, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking.
I would like to see.
Mr. Abraham, I want you to comment on my question.
I think you live in your own la-la land. Anyway, this is not the subject. This is a violation of international law. No matter how much you try to spin it, this is a violation of international law. Neither Israel, nor the United States of America, nor the United Kingdom, nor France, nor any other country on the face of earth has the right to intervene in the internal affairs of any other sovereign nation. The United Nations Charter said this very openly. So no country has the right to intervene in other countries. If they have a problem with Assad, as you say, why are they bombing the Syrian army?
Well, I want to look
Why
at
is
the
Israel allowed
alliance.
to have
I want
a
to look
nuclear
at the
reactor?
alliance
Why
right
is
now
Israel
that
allowed
we
to have
have.
a
Please,
nuclear
Mr.
reactor
Abraham and
that
Mr. Gaba, I
threatens
want to
the
look
whole
at
Middle
the
East?
alliance. Mr. Abraham, stay with me. The alliance right now with AlQaeda and Israel. Exactly what does this mean? Your take first, Mr. Abraham, and then I'll give you a chance, Mr. Kaplan.
Can you come again? Can you come again?
The alliance now between Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra Front, and Israel.
This is not a new alignment. This is not a new alliance, excuse me, between Al-Qaeda and radical Islamic movements and Israel. After all, radical religious movements explain and justify each other. Let's bear in mind that in Afghanistan, when the United States of America decided to support the Mujahideen against the Soviet Union, they turned to Israel to buy weapons from and supply them to the Mujahideen, who in turn became Al-Qaeda and bombed the United States in 9/11. They're doing the same scenario here. They think they can exploit those radical Islamic forces and then get rid of them when things are over. But this is not the case. This won't happen here. Syria is a secular country. These Islamic forces don't stand a chance in this country. Every Syrian will tell you that we will fight radical Islamic tendencies with all what we have, whether we are with or against this government.
Okay.
And this is something that I think we should all understand. This is not a new alignment. For all its life,
Right,
Israel has been aligned with many terrorist organizations.
Yes, go ahead. Let me let Mr. Kaplan in on this. Go ahead, Mr. Kaplan, your take.
There is no alliance between Al-Qaeda and Israel. The Free Syrian Army that's fighting does have some Al-Qaeda factions. However, the majority of the Free Syrian Army is trying to separate itself from Al-Qaeda. As far as Al-Qaeda goes, Al-Qaeda, of course, was allied and is allied with Hamas. It was founded by a Palestinian, actually, Abdullah Azzam, and they had their headquarters in Syria for all the years, and the Syrians were helping Hamas and Al-Qaeda against Israel. So to make an idiotic, ridiculous statement that Israel is allied with Al-Qaeda is nonsense.
Al-Qaeda has never carried out attacks against Israel.
There he goes. There he goes. There he goes again. He loses the argument. He loses the argument because he has to yell and scream and shout over me. But these are the facts. These are the facts.
30 seconds, Mr. Kaplan.
Israel. I'll tell you.
30 seconds, Mr. Kaplan.
Now he's shouting again.
30 seconds, Mr. Kaplan. Go ahead, please.
I'm not shouting. Tell me one incident where Al-Qaeda attacked Israel.
Al-Qaeda has attacked Israel in the Gaza area, and there are factions of Al-Qaeda among the Hamas in Gaza which have also initiated attacks. Al-Qaeda also did attacks in Sinai from Syria. From Egypt in Sinai.
Okay.
In which Al-Qaeda was shown to have been involved.
All right,
and the fact is
seconds,
to say that Al-Qaeda is allied with Israel is ridiculous.
We're just about out of time. 30 seconds, sir. Mr. Ibrahim?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Can you come again?
30 seconds only. Well, 20 seconds now. Your closing remarks, sir. Respond.
I'll tell you one thing. This is a sovereign nation. No one has the right to intervene in Syria's internal affairs using any pretext. These are all lies. They don't have any right to intervene in Syria's internal affairs.
It is a genocidal dictatorship that has to go. Syria is a genocidal dictatorship run by a genocidal murderer.
He has to go. Sir,
has to go.
Okay, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Very lively discussion, but we are out of time. I thank both my guests out of Damascus, Mr. Ibrahim, Syrian journalist, and out of Berkeley, California, investigative journalist Lee Kaplan. Thank you for being with us, and thank you, viewers. Join us next time on the next debate. I'm Marzieh Hashemi, signing out for Press TV.